and welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Chaos Child. In the last episode, Takuru and Kurusu infiltrated the Tokyo General Hospital yet again with the aid of Shinjo, Mio, and Momose. And lo and behold, had discovered that Uki Yamazoe had, well, found the basement where the patients were being kept, but as Momose had told her back at Frisia headquarters, everything is gone. The patients, the doctors, everything. But, fortunately, Takuru and Kurusu were able to take Uki back to the Aoba clinic/dorm and had a chat to Sakuma about it. But the biggest surprise actually came when, turns out of all things that Uki is actually an old classmate of Yui's, and for some reason Uki hasn't aged since she went missing. Since she disappeared. At least we can rule out her being, well... Good news is she wasn't kidnapped. Bad news was she was left there by none other than her own parents, which is... Yeah, which is definitely strange. But, well, surprisingly, thanks to Yui's help, we were, and actually, to give him credit where credit is due, Sakuma, we were actually able to open up, or rather to get Uki to open up, about herself in a way that even Momose was unable to do so, so chalk that as a victory for us. But anyway, Ito and I were heading to the club room, again, for the nth time.
じゃあ、あの山添ウキって子、今は青葉寮にいるのか?
Yes, she is.
ああ、この先どうなるかわからないけど、なんとかしてやりたいとは思ってるんだ。
Yeah. Because otherwise, if we don't, Mio's going to send her to a research facility and open her up in a very different way. We don't want that to happen.
けどまさかゆいちゃんの同級生とはな。
Yeah, it is actually very peculiar, but Yui has the proof in the form of that photograph.
驚いた。
でも、まあ良かったんじゃねえの?
It was very convenient.
良かったって?
ゆいちゃん、喜んでたんだろ?
That she was at being reunited with an old classmate.
ああ、そういうことか。確かに。
Yui had really looked happy this morning. Normally she'd probably tried her hardest to play the role of being Yuto's big sister when she wasn't trying to play the role of Nono Kurusu in the process. But she was still only in middle school. If she ran into a friend, of course it would make her happy. And what is with that laughter there, Shinji?
何がおかしいんだよ。
いや、お前口ではなんだかんだ言いながら結構大事にしてるからな。今の家族のこと。
I see what he's getting at.
そんなんじゃないって。
照れるなって。お前にとってもいいことなんじゃねえの? そういう存在がいるってことは。
僕は別に照れてなんか。っていうか、そんなことどうでもいいんだよ。ほら、早く部室行こう。小野や有村や和樹にも山添のことを話さなきゃ。
Yeah, we need to get going. Of course, I'd already told everyone to come for an emergency meeting. They should be in the room already, and we should be as well.
というわけで、今山添由紀って子は青葉寮で保護されてる。
タク、大活躍だったんだね。
Yeah, it was a unexpected stroke of luck on our part. Things worked out so well.
いや、それほどでも。
The girls all seemed very impressed. We couldn't just leave her there, could we? Serika was squeezing her Garofroggy strap in lieu of applause. It still sounded nothing like it was supposed to, and honestly, I would have preferred the real applause. But I was used to it now, I guess. Oh well.
ダメよセリカ、カズキ。あんまりおだてるといい気になってまた無茶なことするから。
The sad thing is that you're not wrong there, Kurusu, but not because of the first part. Flattery has nothing to do with being crazy.
しないって。
I would make promises you can't keep, Takuru. If things start escalating, later on, things will definitely get crazy. Sheesh. I appreciated that she was worried about me, but Kurusu was a little too protective. I especially wish she'd stop it when everyone else was around. It was embarrassing.
けど気持ちいいっすね。今頃新庄さんや久野里さん悔しがってますよ。ざまあみろです。ぷぷぷ。
And Hanai is just enjoying the fact that Takuru was able to do what even Mio Kunosato could not.
有村は前から知ってたのか、山添のこと。
ええ、まあ電話でちょっと話したくらいですけどね。彼女フリージアでは肝心なことはほとんど喋らなかったみたいですよ。多分久野里さんたちを怖がってたんでしょうね。
Yeah, pretty much.
まあそうだろうな。
それに比べてあの子、宮代先輩の前では割と素直だったみたいですね。先輩ってとぼけた顔して実は女の子の扱いがうまかったりするんですか？
No, we have to give credit where credit is due, and it was really Yui that actually she bonded with, not us. Arimura grinned. Of course I do. I've read every issue of Cool Cat Press that I could find. Definitely not a good idea to say that out loud. I couldn't say that though, so I didn't. Good. That's for the best.
違うよ。クルスとユイがいてくれたから。
Yeah, that is pretty much the truth, actually.
当たり前じゃないですか。何本気にしてるんです？気持ち悪いですよ。
And you not being serious is also creepy. I was never going to get used to this. For one thing, no matter how hard I tried to glare at her, she just smirked. And the door was opening. I was trying to think of a good comeback when the door to the club room suddenly opened. Could either be one of three people, or four people if I'm thinking. Could either be Kawahara, could either be Wakui, the advisor, or it could be Shinjo and Mio. The door opened softly, but it was clear that the person standing in front of it was furious. I think I know who it is. Yeah.
おい、
Ha 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 ha. Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha. Ah ha. Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha. I'm actually enjoying this way too much. I apologize. Speak of the devil. Kunosato was there, and the light in her eyes was as cold and fierce as ever. If it makes you feel any better, at least we got results. It's not gonna make you feel any better. Oh well. Instead of yelling, her voice was low and threatening. I figured that she'd eventually find out that we were the ones who had taken Uki, but I didn't expect her here so soon.
お前どういうつもりだ
Actually making progress and making sure you didn't make a mistake that the rest of us were ultimately going to regret for the rest of eternity.
どうって。
あいつは重要な証拠なんだ勝手なことをするな
You were never gonna get her to talk. What are you talking about? Kunosato stomped over to me and grabbed me by the lapel. Her arms were so thin, I don't know where she got the strength. It was like she was filled with some kind of raw hatred that gave her power.
ちょっとやめてください。暴力反対です。
I don't think Mio Kunosato gives a damn, to be honest. There's Serika. Serika and Kurusu grabbed her and tried to pull her off, but she held on to me tightly.
僕は無理にあの子を連れて帰ったわけじゃないです。
何
She left of her own free will.
彼女はうちに来るのを望んだんです。あなたたちのところには行かないって言ったんですよ。
That was only a half-truth. But I felt like I had to say it anyway.
大体証拠って何なんですか。彼女は物じゃないです。実験動物でもないです。だからあなたには渡せません。
何も知らないくせに貴様
And neither for that matter do you. Her hand gripped me tighter. What the hell was going on? Interesting that she would also use the term evidence and not witness. Yeah, what was wrong with this woman? I felt a powerful rage building up within me. There was a low buzzing in my ears, and Kurusu and Serika's shout suddenly seemed to be very far away. And then I saw the D-sword. And it was clearer than it had ever been before.
こいつ離せよ。
Oh, you've done it now, Mio. Oh, you've done it now. Her face suddenly twisted in pain. I looked at her with blurry eyes and saw that a red mark had formed on her pale white wrist, as if something was digging into it. She was gritting her teeth, and her breathing made it seem like she was trying to endure some kind of incredible pain, but still she refused to let go.
宮代先輩、ダメです、ダメ。
Arimura's scream seemed like it was coming from underwater. The new violent temptations within me had almost taken control. What she's trying to do is wrong. I'll get rid of her myself. That righteous anger combined with this power, I can do anything I want. Things are getting out of control. A maddeningly sweet feeling of omnipotence overflowed from within me and refused to stop. Yeah, things got bad pretty fast. That's right, do it. Just kill the bitch, it screamed.
やめなさいタクル。
I heard Kurusu yell in my ear. At the same time, I felt a strong slap across the cheek. And then Kunisado and I were pulled apart. I suddenly regained control of my senses. Kurusu, Ito, and Seriko grabbed me and were holding me back, while Arimoto and Kazuki were doing the same to Kunosato. I think it's time to address the elephant in the room. Kunosato looked at me with eyes full of hate, and then pushed Arimoto and Kazuki away. Seriko quickly grabbed them and held them up.
大丈夫？うん。ありがとう、セリ。もうやめてください、久野里さん。
Now it was the Empress's turn to get mad.
お帰りください。ここは部外者がいていい場所ではありません。
Indeed. But there is something we do have to address. Her personal hatred of the Gigalomaniacs. She was clutching her hands into fists so tightly that they turned white, standing between Kunosato and the rest of us as if she was some kind of protector.
あなたが何のつもりでうちのタクルやウキ、それから有村さんにひどい仕打ちをするのかは知りません。でも私はそれを許しません。
お前の許可などいるか。今実際に見ただろ。能力者は危険な。
今すぐお引き取りください。
Kurusu's voice left no room for discussion. Neither of them moved a muscle for a moment.
ちょっと待ってくれ。ストップだ。ストップ。
And then we heard panting coming from the hallway.
<sighs> どこへ行ったのかと思えば、やっぱりここか、久野里さん。
It was Shinjo. Impeccable timing there. He must have been running for a while because his hair was messed up and there was sweat on his forehead.
俺に任せてくれと言わなかったか？
あんたの悠長なやり方では大切な証拠が消されてしまう。
Or we could get it for you.
焦るのはわかるが、物には言い方というものがだな。申し訳ない、クルスさん。俺たちは何も揉めたくて来たわけじゃないんだ。
じゃあ何のご用ですか？
Yeah, Kurusu is still mad.
そう怖い顔をしないでくれるかな。
Shinjo looked at both of them, troubled. And then he turned toward me.
なあ、宮代君。君の言いたいことはわかる。昨日、ウキ君を連れ去ったことも別に責めたりしない。確かに俺たちが間違っていたかもしれん。
Yeah.
だから今日はちゃんと頼みに来た。ウキ君と、あとできれば君と有村さんもしかるべき場所で一度検査を受けてほしいんだ。
Yeah, all this just to test, Kunisato's theory that a certain part of the brain is instigated when Gigalomaniac powers are used.
はあ
Arimura responded before I could.
新庄さんこそ頭ん中見てもらったらどうですか？はーい、私喜んで実験台になりますなんて言うとでも思います？
話は最後まで聞いてくれ。これは本当に君たちのためなんだよ。
His next words came as a shock to me.
実は今しがた佐久間先生に相談をしてきたんだ。
Yeah, figured you'd turn up on the doorstep. Both Kurusu and I shouted at the same time.
君たちはその久野里さんのやり方が気に入らないんだよな。だったら佐久間先生の友人の病院ならどうだ？
おい、何を勝手に決めて。
Interesting compromise
久野里さん。
there. Shinjo put up a hand to cut her off.
わかるだろ。そうしなきゃ彼らは検査になんて応じないよ。ちゃんと君も同席させるから。
Well done, Shinjo. Kunosato furrowed her brow in anger, then turned and left the room. Shinjo waited until he couldn't hear her footsteps anymore, then sighed a little in relief. Then he continued.
ということでどうだろうな、宮代君、有村さん。何でも佐久間先生、以前は大学の医学部で准教授をしていたらしいじゃないか。
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Kurusu must not have known it either because she looked over at me confused.
父さんが准教授？
知らなかったな。
Yeah, it's news to us.
ただの変なおじさんだと思ってた。
Well, he probably didn't wear that lab coat for nothing.
おいおい、まああのルックスじゃそう思われるかもしれないけど。
But then again, if he wasn't a trained medical, person, he probably couldn't run a clinic, legally at least. Shinjo laughed, and seemingly in sympathy with my dad.
佐久間先生の友人なら信頼できると思うんだけどな。どうだろう。
私はどっちにしても嫌ですよ。
Yeah, Hanai's having none of it.
そう言うと思った。
Shinjo chuckled. He was probably anticipating that response.
でもな、有村さん、佐久間先生の話だと君らの能力は身体に対して良くない影響を与えているかもしれないそうだよ。
え？
Yeah, well,
山添由紀君に会ってくるといい。あれで14歳というのは明らかにおかしいと思うんだ。なあ、宮代君。
yeah, she's, Shinjo isn't wrong about Gigalomaniac powers having negative, effects on our health. It was true that Uki looked the same as she did in her old school pictures. It was like the passage of time had stopped for her. If that was caused by her powers... Of course, for those of us who remember ChäoS Head, there was another Gigalomaniac for whom, the exact opposite happened.
ウキ君に関しては絶対に精密検査をすべきというのが佐久間先生の意見だ。そのついでに宮代君と有村さんも異常がないか見てもらったらどうだろう。まあ人間ドックだと思えばいい。それでもダメかな。
even Hanai is starting to break down a little bit there. Arimoto was still unsure, it seemed, but what happened to Uki must have bothered her.
少し考えさせてください。
ああ、それで構わない。
まだ OK したわけじゃないですよ。
もちろん。
あの。
ん？
I looked out the door where Kunasato had just left.
父さんが必要だと言うなら検査を受けてもいいです。けどその途中でもし久野里さんがその山添や有村を実験動物みたいに扱ったりしたら。
Yeah, we still need to deal with Mio. I hesitated for a second, unsure of what to say, but then I continued.
僕だって怒ります。能力を使ってその検査なんかできないようめちゃくちゃにしてやりますから覚えておいてください。
Well, we need to be able to control those powers there, Takuru. Otherwise all this is for naught.
タク？
But then again, Takuru has a point. His temper literally almost got the better of him, and even he would have been unable to control it. Don't think of this as a threat. Think of this as a warning.
おいおい。
ダメよ。何言ってるの？
Exactly as it sounds. If Mio starts going overboard, Takuru won't be able to hold back. Everyone was shocked at seeing me act so differently than usual. But I remembered the sense of power, of omnipotence that I had just felt, and shivered a little. Although, even though they are quite powerful, Gigalomaniacs are not omnipotent. Not by a long shot. That's right, I could do it. I would do it. If I had to, I could do what I just did.
了解だ。検査中は俺が注意をしておく。それでいいだろ？
Shinjo sighed a little and shook his head. He was probably trying to come up with a way to keep Kunasato quiet and not having much luck.
それじゃあ部活中のところお邪魔したね。
He went to leave the room, but just before he stepped into the hallway, he turned around.
あっといけない。もう一つ大事な話があったんだ。久野里さんのせいで忘れるところだった。
何でしょうか？
It was clear from Kurusu's voice that she was still upset. Shinjo may have been used to dealing with Kunasato, but the Empress was a whole different animal altogether. He flinched a little.
宮代くんと尾上さん、あと伊藤くんにちょっとね。
私ですか？
俺、何も悪いことしてないっすよ。
してないです。
君たち病院の地下へ不法侵入したじゃないか。
あれはですね。
というかそれを言ったら新庄さんや久野里さんだって。
その通りだ。だから今のは冗談として。
冗談になってね。
No, it wasn't.
本気でびっくりしちゃったよ。
聞きたいことっていうのは実はその地下施設のことでね。
Shinjo's voice dropped several decibels as he continued.
久野里さんの話だと施設の PC に南沢千里という女の子のデータがあったというんだが。
Yes, there was. Old Kurusu gasped a little. Shinjo didn't know about Kurusu and Minamisawa though, so just looked confused for a moment before quickly continuing.
久野里さんは君たちも一緒に見たと証言してる。覚えはあるかな？
Of course we do. Suddenly hearing that name almost brought back the trauma, but
はい、見ました。
データは確かにあったんだね。
yes, it was.
はい。
Except it's been taken by the very people whose data it is.
そうか。
Shinjo looked at Ito and Serika too. They both nodded. We all saw it.
ならこれを確認してほしい。証拠品でね、実物を持ってくるわけにはいかなかったんだが。
He put his hand in his pocket and took out a photo. It showed what looked like an ID card. Date of birth, 1997. Wait. I couldn't believe my eyes. The card looked old and it was dirty and scratched in spots. But the name and the face on it were clearly visible.
南沢千里。
Yeah, it's her, alright. The name Senri Minamisawa was displayed under the ID number. The expressionless face in the picture was without a doubt the girl I'd seen in the basement. And not to mention the photo on Kurusu's phone.
どうだろう。同姓同名の別人ってことはないかな。久野里さんはこの子に間違いないと言ってるんだが。
間違いないです。
Indeed it is. Of that there is no doubt.
俺もそう思います。
私も。
All three of us answered instantly. Shinjo nodded and put the picture back in his pocket.
そうか。ありがとう。
その子、南沢千里さんがどうかしたんですか？
I asked, trying to say it in a way that wouldn't bother Kurusu. Not having much luck with that, I'm afraid.
ゆうべ、そうだな。ちょうど君が浮くんを青葉寮に連れて行ってしまった頃か。
So something happened.
新鮮駅付近を警ら中だった巡査2名が連続放火事件の容疑者らしき女を発見した。
Wait. Did they find...
っていうと、私たちを襲ったパイロキネシストですか？
ああ。君らの証言や有村さんに協力してもらった似顔絵と特徴が一致していたそうだ。何よりも火を使ったらしいからね。
Supposedly, I'm told. Those words probably meant...
逃げられたんですね。
職務質問をしようと近寄った途端にやられた。一人は重度の熱傷で、今病院の ICU にいる。
Yeah. The direct approach was not wise.
もう一人の巡査は女を取り押さえようと揉み合いになった。結局 彼も手足を焼かれ重傷なんだが、その時女が落としたのが。
Yeah. Well, I kind of had a sneaking suspicion. But, he patted the photo in his pocket.
は？
That woman had Senri Minami Sawa's ID card? That she did. Why?
それって宮代を襲った犯人がってことですか？
Oh dear. Suddenly there was a loud crash. I turned and saw that Kurusu had gone deathly pale and been forced to grab a table to stop from falling over. Her teacup was lying shattered on the table. The sound was probably from when she dropped it.
クルス、
先輩、大丈夫？ええ、ごめんなさい。ちょっとめまいがしたものだから。
Yeah, because as far as Kurusu believes, although she's more to say that she's trying to convince herself, actually, that Senri Minamisawa died in the earthquake.
座ってろ、副部長。
But I think we have the proof
ありがとう。
now. Kazuki dragged a chair over for her to sit in, and she collapsed down on top of it. Shinjo seemed to realize that something was wrong. Yeah, we need to talk. He hesitated for a moment, and then asked in as soft a tone as he could muster.
クルスさん、もしかして君も南沢千里のことを何か知っているのか？
新庄さん、そのことは。
Sadly, Takuru, we can't step in to protect Kurusu.
平気よ、タクル。
Kurusu looked up and cut me off. And then she told him how Senri Minamisawa was her childhood friend, and that she was being used as a test subject in the experiments conducted in that basement. And finally...
でも、千里は渋谷地震の被災者として慰霊碑にも名前が刻まれています。犯人であるはずがありません。
Yeah, I've been wondering about that, Kurusu. Yeah, I think Senri's name was put on that memorial to hide the truth. That's how she finished.
そうですよ。地震の犠牲になったんだろうって久野里さんも言ってましたし。
No, Takuru, as much as we want to comfort and counsel Kurusu, we can't do that. That pyrokinetic was, in fact, Senri Minamisawa, who is none too happy that she's been abandoned. I quickly added. Shinjo thought for a moment, then spoke even more gently than before.
クルスさん、よく話してくれたね。ありがとう。彼女の死の記録が事実かどうかは今警察で再調査を進めている。その状況次第では申し訳ない。改めて署の方で話を聞かせてもらうかもしれない。
Fair enough.
構いません。何かの間違いだと信じてますけど。
I don't think so, Kurusu. I think the people that experimented on her did this deliberately, to keep anyone from finding out. There was no doubt in her voice. She is utterly convinced that Senri died in the earthquake. Shinjo chuckled a little.
君の友達を疑いたくはないが、因果な商売でね。犯人の正体はともかく、宮代君と有村さん、君らはまた狙われる可能性がある。用心だけはしていてくれ。
Yeah, that she will.
やっぱりそうですかね。
Indeed he is.
君たちは能力者だとバレてしまったんだ。何かあったらすぐに連絡を。24時間いつでも構わない。
Oh, and she knows more than that. She knows more than the fact that we're Gigalomaniacs. She knows Takuru. She knows Takuru only far too well.
あと、南沢千里の件に関しては、警察から正式に発表があるまで外部に漏らさないでくれ。真偽がはっきりするまでマスコミあたりに騒がれたくない。頼んだよ。
That is true. You raise a good point. However, if Senri decides to take matters into her own hands, that could make that pretty difficult. Shinjo took one last worried look at Kurusu and then left the room. Everyone felt silent, lost in their own thoughts. In the end, we cancelled the club meeting, and Kurusu went to the student council to finish up her work. She was still deathly pale. We should probably leave her be for the time being, which is probably a good place to end this episode of Let's Play ChäoS, child. And when we return, adventurers, we're going to have to prepare for that examination by Sakuma and his associate. And also with the reality of dealing with the truth of Senri Minamisawa, even if Kurusu doesn't want to. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.